You lie down. The room goes dark. Your body is exhausted. And then your brain turns on. Not gently, not softly. It floods. The thing you said 3 years ago. The email you forgot to send. The conversation you're going to have tomorrow. Rehearsed 17 different ways. You are horizontal, still, safe. And your mind is running faster than it did all day. You have probably wondered if something is wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with you. Something is very, very right with you. In a way that made perfect sense for almost the entire history of your species. It just makes no sense for the life you are living now. Here is what is actually happening inside your skull every night. Your brain does not experience time the way a clock does. It does not tick forward in clean, equal intervals. It experiences time in two completely different modes, and the switch between them is not controlled by your willpower or your schedule. It is controlled by light. For almost all of human history, the end of daylight was the end of action. When the sun went down, you could not hunt. You could not travel. You could not build, plant, or trade. The physical world around you became dangerous and mostly unusable. But your brain did not shut down. It could not afford to. Because the moment the external world went quiet was the moment the internal world became urgent. Researcher Matthew Walker, who spent decades studying sleep at the University of California, Berkeley, describes the pre-sleep window as one of the most cognitively active periods in the entire human day. Not the least, the most. Your brain, he found, is not winding down at night. It is processing. Think about what that processing was originally for. Your ancestors sat around fire after dark. They could not scroll. They could not work. They could not distract themselves with noise or light or endless input. The only thing available to them was each other and their own minds. And so the mind did what minds are shaped to do when the body stops moving. It reviewed. It rehearsed. It worried productively. That last phrase matters. Worried productively, not worried endlessly, not spiraled into anxiety about things that cannot be changed. Reviewed the hunt. Planned the route. Noticed the social tension in the group before it became a rupture. Processed the conflict with the neighboring clan. Thought through the food supply before winter. The nighttime mind was a planning machine, a social calculator, a threat assessment engine. And it ran most efficiently when the body was still and the external world was quiet. You still have that brain. Exactly that brain. It is not updated. Cognitive scientist Antonio Damasio at the University of Southern California has spent years mapping the relationship between the body and the thinking mind. His research shows that physical stillness does not reduce cognitive activity. In many people, it increases it. When your muscles stop sending competing signals to your brain's default mode network, the part responsible for self-referential thought, memory consolidation, and future simulation, activates more strongly. Lying down is not a signal to your brain that thinking is over. It may be the opposite. Lying down tells your brain that the body is handled. Now it can think. So the thoughts come. And here is where the ancient design collides with the modern environment in a way that is genuinely brutal. Your ancestors' nighttime thoughts had a natural ceiling. There was only so much to review. The tribe was small. The threats were physical and finite. The future only extended as far as the next season. There was a limit to what the mind could usefully rehearse. And when it hit that limit, it stopped. The fire burned low. Sleep came. Your life does not have that ceiling. Your social world is not 30 people. It is hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, if you include the digital connections that your brain, against all evolutionary logic, treats as real relationships. Your threats are not finite. They are economic, social, professional, political, personal, global, layered and abstract in ways your threat detection system was never designed to parse. Your future is not one season ahead. It is decades of possible outcomes, branching and branching and branching until the mind can find no solid ground to stand on. And so the nighttime rehearsal loop runs and finds no natural endpoint. Because there is none. Dr. Ethan Kross, a psychologist at the University of Michigan who studies the inner voice, calls this chatter the cycling, repetitive self-talk that your brain generates when it is trying to solve a problem it does not have the tools to solve. His research shows that chatter is most intense in exactly the conditions your brain is most active: low external stimulation, physical stillness, social isolation. In other words, bedtime. The exact environment that was supposed to trigger rest triggers the most aggressive form of inner speech your brain produces all day. You are not broken. You are stuck in the world your brain was built for, inside a life it was never built for. Now here's where it gets stranger. Because your brain is not just thinking at night. It is thinking in a specific way. Studies using fMRI imaging, brain scans taken while subjects lie awake at night, show a clear pattern in what the nighttime mind focuses on. It does not distribute evenly across all possible topics. It gravitates toward three categories almost exclusively: unresolved social situations, incomplete plans, and perceived threats. Not completed tasks, not happy memories, not neutral information. The brain at night is a curator of the unfinished, the uncertain, and the dangerous. It is not trying to torture you. It is doing exactly what it was built to do. Identify what is not yet handled before sleep makes you temporarily vulnerable. It is running a pre-sleep threat scan that served your ancestors extremely well for hundreds of thousands of years. In a world where the unresolved social conflict, the unfinished preparation, or the overlooked threat could literally kill you before morning, this was a survival feature of the highest order. You just live in a world where almost nothing will kill you before morning, and the list of unresolved, incomplete, and uncertain things in your life is effectively infinite. Matthew Walker's research also found something that most people find counterintuitive. The harder you try to stop thinking at night, the more vigorously the thoughts return. This is not a character flaw. It is a cognitive phenomenon called the rebound effect. When you attempt to suppress a thought, your brain assigns monitoring resources to track whether that thought has been successfully suppressed. Those monitoring resources are thinking about the thought constantly. You are not fighting your thoughts, you are generating more of them. The ancient solution was not suppression, it was expression. People talked around the fire, they narrated the day, they told stories, they sang. They processed the content of the nighttime mind aloud, collectively, in the presence of others. And through that expression, the loop closed. The thought had somewhere to go. It did not need to recycle. You have probably noticed that when you tell someone about something that is bothering you, it bothers you less. You may have assumed this was just emotional support. It is not only that. It is the ancient loop closing mechanism doing exactly what it was designed to do. The thought was heard. The scan found a resolution. The brain can now mark that item as handled. The researchers who study pre-sleep cognitive activity consistently point toward one intervention that has more neurological support than almost any other: writing. Not typing. Writing by hand. The act of translating internal thought into external language, making the invisible visible, is one of the most effective ways to close the nighttime loop. Not because it solves the problems, but because the brain does not need the problems to be solved. It needs them to be registered, filed, acknowledged as seen. A study published in the Journal of Experimental Psychology found that participants who wrote a specific to-do list before bed, not a general worry dump, but a concrete forward-looking list of things to be done, fell asleep significantly faster than those who wrote about completed tasks. The more specific and future-oriented the writing, the faster the brain released the day, because the monitoring system got what it was looking for. Proof that the unfinished things are handled, at least enough to survive the night. Your brain is not keeping you awake to punish you. It is keeping you awake to protect you. It is doing the same thing it did for every human who survived long enough to eventually become your ancestor. It is scanning for what is unresolved because unresolved things were once genuinely dangerous. It is rehearsing difficult conversations because saying the wrong thing to the wrong person once carried consequences you cannot imagine in your current life. It is looping through the uncertain future because in a world without safety nets, imagining the worst-case scenario and preparing for it was the difference between being alive in spring and not. The weight you feel when you cannot sleep is not weakness. It is the full machinery of human survival running exactly as designed. In a body that has not yet received the message that the world it was built for no longer exists. Tonight, when you lie down and the thoughts begin, when the email surfaces and the conversation replays and the future branches in directions you cannot control, you will know what is actually happening. Your ancient brain is doing its oldest job. It is keeping watch. It is preparing you. It is refusing to let go until it is certain you are safe. The same mind that kept your ancestors alive through the longest, darkest nights in human history is the mind that will not let you sleep. And in a way, that is the most human thing about you.